Hey guys, so this is going to be a quick, short, well, maybe not short, but a quick little video that I'm doing. This is just going to be something a little fun. If you're wondering about any of my more official videos, if you want to call it that, I'm planning to have my second episode of I.O. Chat coming out this weekend or before this weekend, so look out for that. It's going to be really interesting. I'm doing a video on the comparison between Undertale and Deltarune. I would really appreciate it if y'all would check it out. But for now, I am going to be reading you a couple of stories. Now, my little sister has recently gone into forensics at her high school. Now, forensics, if you didn't know, is basically the acting competition kind of sport event that is usually found in high schools. Some high schools do it, some don't. But she's looking to me like, hey, I'm looking into doing some dramatic pieces. Do you want to kind of look at the two that I've narrowed it down to see like which one is better, which one I should do, and I can kind of be as loud and exuberant as I would like to be. Oh! Anyway. So, I have not looked into these stories at all. They are contained within these two folders. There is Mother's Day and Forgive and Forget. So, I'm going to just take the one on top, Mother's Day. Okay, well, let's go ahead and look into this sad and oh so sad piece called Mother's Day by Celeste LeBeau. These flowers are pretty, aren't they? They're my mother's favorite. And you've got to get your mother her favorite flowers on Mother's Day, don't you? Or you should. It's Mother's Day. You should always get your mother as many of her favorite flowers as you can on Mother's Day. You know, you never know when she won't be around to enjoy them. Her real name was Dorothy, but everyone called her Daisy. It was her favorite flower, so one day Mother decided that's what she wanted to be called. Everyone loved Mother, so no one ever had a problem pretending that Dorothy Gale Peterson was named Daisy Gale Peterson. Why would anyone have a problem with that? My mother was the sweetest woman anyone could ever meet. Oh, did I mention she was also born with mental retardation? Okay, before I go on, I do want to say that I do not have a problem with anyone who has any kind of mental illness or is a mentally challenged person. But if you're going to write a sad story, it's almost a little cliche to have, my mother died recently. Oh, by the way, did you know that she was also retarded? Yeah, anyway, let's move on. Dorothy Gale Peterson. If you can't tell, my grandmother was I don't know why I'm doing this voice, but was rather fond of Judy Garland's portrayal of Dorothy Gale, the little lost girl from Kansas. Hey, where I'm from. In The Wizard of Oz. You know, most mentally challenged adult women who gave birth and raised a child are only mildly disabled. My mother's mental handicap was labeled as severe. When my mother was little, my grandmother said she loved baby dolls, and the more realistic the dolls were, the better. I was told that every night my mother would pray that someday one of her baby dolls would spring to life and become a real baby. When I was born, my mother believed her prayers were answered. I'm Dill, by the way. It's a weird name. It's an odd name. It's an odd name, but fitting at the same time. I've told you that Mother's favorite flower was the daisy, but I don't think I told you what her second favorite flower was, have I? If you haven't already figured out the obvious, it was daffodils. Daffodils? Why is that obvious? Oh, because it's dill, daffodil. Oh. I think it's nice that I was named after something Mother loved so dearly. But let's be honest. You can't go to school like a name like Daffodil. Sure you can. You can't even go to kindergarten with a name like Daffodil. Get it? Daffodil? Kindergarten? That cracks me up every time. Mother didn't have a problem with me changing my name. After all, she went from a normal name like Dorothy and changed it to a flower, Daisy. I changed my name from a flower, Daffodil, to Dill, a pickle. The point is, we were polar opposites, and yet somehow we were very much alike. Well, obviously, I had the higher IQ at age 4. Oof! That's harsh. But still, I was her baby doll come to life, and she was my mother. It's an interesting relationship. You know the common relationship, baby doll come to life and their mother. No baby was ever loved more than me. Of course, my grandmother was the legal guardian of both my mother and me, but there was no mistaking which one was my mother. I wonder. She loved listening to original movie soundtracks, and she was especially fond of those without lyrics. She would twirl me around the room to such classics as the theme from Jaws and the theme from Poltergeist, Halloween. What? I mean, I guess I could see, listening to those, but I just find it kind of funny. Could you imagine that? Dancing around to the theme of Jaws, Okay. Making a fool out of myself. It wouldn't take a genius to see immediately that this wasn't a normal picture. Here was this woman, barely capable of trying on her own shoes, with this perfectly normal child beside her. I didn't care what other people thought. Mother was beautiful. To me, she was. And when she danced around the room with me in her arms, listening to themes from Jaws and Halloween, Mother was as graceful as Ginger Rogers. I don't know that person. I assume my grandmother provided any extras we needed. Still, Mother liked to be independent. Forget the fact that we lived in a converted garage apartment over my grandmother's home. Wait, what? So they lived in the garage? You may have noticed by now that I haven't mentioned a father figure. Actually, I didn't notice that. But anyway, well, there's a good reason for that, I tell you. I don't know who he is. All I know is that one night my mother was missing for a while. My grandmother called the police, but they couldn't find her. Finally, after about 5 hours, Mother walked back through the front door of my grandmother's house. When questioned about her whereabouts, Mother simply told my grandmother that she had a date with whom she couldn't remember. When my grandmother finally told me about all of this, she said it didn't look as if Mother had been abused, but let's not kid ourselves. Someone took advantage of my mother. Someone with enough street savvy to know that she wouldn't know right from wrong or how to defend herself, or what she was even doing. And who knows, secretly, maybe my grandmother thought this would be the only chance she'd ever have of becoming a grandmother. What we do know is that my grandmother's worst fears, or secret prayers, became a reality. Wait, what? What we do know is that my grandmother's worst fears, or secret prayers, became a reality. So the grandmother's worst fears and her secret prayers were the same thing. Keep that. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, to ensure that Mother couldn't have any more children, my grandmother, being her legal guardian, signed the necessary papers for the doctor to secretly perform the one surgery that would guarantee she couldn't give birth to any more baby dolls. Amen. You may or may not be aware of this, but the life expectancy of a person with mental retardation isn't as long as the normal person's. Actually, I didn't know that. I had just gone down to the store down the street, and Mother was listening to one of her instrumental movie soundtracks. The doctor says it was a stroke. I'm sure it was, but I'd like to think that Mother's heart and mind were simply dancing faster than her little body could move. I wish I'd been there with her. I don't want to think she was afraid. I wouldn't have been scared, I promise. I wouldn't have been scared at all. I would just like to have had one more dance with my mother. That was so sad. So that was interesting. It wasn't really like heart-tugging. Like it was interesting where it was the situation surrounding it, like the mother being having mental retardation, with just actually that was it. Well, let's see what the other one is. All right, so this next one and the last one obviously is called "Forgive and Forget," written by Bridgel Grace Schaff. I had salmon for dinner last night, pasta the night before that, and on Saturday, June 8th, 1991, I had tacos. This is already a much more interesting story. And the evening of 1989, Oscars, Sunday, March 26th, I had chicken, fried chicken, and cold mashed potatoes. I was 7. I have this, thing. I have superior autobiographical memory. It's a real thing. I remember everything. I'm serious. Literally everything. I remember every birthday, every first day of school, every anniversary, every lyric to every song written by Hootie and the Blowfish, and everywhere they played. This girl is rocking it. I am capable of remembering everything. This means I'm capable of winning every trivia contest, acing every history exam, and you never want to fight with me because I am capable of bringing up events that you probably don't even recollect, which my husband has called cheating 127 times in our relationship. There is only one thing I am not capable of: forgetting. So this is where our story starts, with a woman being able to remember everything, but being able to forget nothing. This is where our story begins. Come with me, children, as we explore the depths of this story called Forgive and Forget. Except you won't forget. I hate it when people ask me, do you remember that one time? I just want to shake them by the shoulders and say, of course I do! Why do you even ask? But of course it works the other way too. I remember what seemed like hugely monumental events, and no one else ever knows what I am talking about. It's often strange to think about people who don't remember everything. Those sickos. People who are forgetful baffle me. Not forgetful in the way that they misplace their reading glasses, although I would never do that. I'm talking about those who can't remember the details of the past or the feelings of ordinary moments. Of course, those moments which others people see as remarkable I usually remember better than they do. Like my sister, I will bring up things about her own life that she doesn't even recall. Surprisingly, I learned a lot from Ella. Not that she was dumb, per se. We had a lot of conversations, that walking home from school. It was only 4 blocks from our house, but we would walk slowly so we could talk. I looked up to her so much. She was so brave and so wise. And I was always shy. In fact, I spent most of my elementary years hiding. Ella would never hide. She would stand face to face with whatever problem was ahead and stare it down. Ella was never the prettiest girl in the class. I thought she was beautiful, but she was bullied relentlessly at school. And then there was this one boy, Max, who was absolutely awful to her. I remember Ella crying in her room after school because of the atrocious things he said to her. I remember them all. Every insult rings in my head, stored in a file of my 4th grade year. It didn't even happen to me, but I never tried to help. I would see him walking outside the playground after lunch, and I would hide. I would flee to some refuge far away, and he would find Ella, and the taunts would begin. Oh! Ella put on a brave face and tried to ignore them. One day, December 2nd, I was hiding underneath the slide when Max came outside. Ella and her friends stood huddled in a small bunch, trying to stay warm. It was freezing outside, and there was an inch of snow on the ground. Max walked out in his truly hideous olive-green ski jacket. He sauntered over to Ella and threw out the always popular, "Hi, loser!" Okay, we gotta give this guy, this bully Max, a voice. "Hey, loser!" Ella ignored him, and her friend Jane muttered, "Buzz off, Max." Max was relentless, though. He grabbed Ella's hair and pulled her toward him. She screamed, more from fright than from pain. Max was not a small boy. He was muscular and tall, and he couldn't control himself. I put my mittened hand over my eyes and didn't watch. I heard him say, "Don't none of you move, or I'll pull her hair out. Then maybe her head will grow new hair that isn't the color of barf." Monday, March 27th, 1989. Max stole her purple backpack and ripped the bottom open. "What's all this?" Her papers flew everywhere. "You're such a freaking nerd! Nerd!" We were on the way home from school, and instead of calling for help or doing something, I ran home and locked the door. Ella knocked 16 minutes later, and I let her in. I was still shaking. She looked at me, and then she walked into her room and shut the door quietly. She didn't say one word for the rest of the afternoon. Thursday, April 13th. Ella walks into the school bathroom with me before the bell rings. As I'm washing my hands, Ella opens the door and shuts it quickly. "Susie, I need you to be a good girl and walk to class by yourself, okay?" I peek out the door, and I see a glimpse of Max's face. I can't move. "Susan, listen to me. Go to class." I walk slowly out of the bathroom. Max is standing there, directly outside the door, waiting for Ella. "Is your ugly sister in there?" I couldn't say anything. I ran away as fast as I could. I looked over my shoulder and saw Max walk into the girls' bathroom. After school, Ella picked me up, her head down. I held her hand, and we walked the 4 blocks home. Neither of us mentioned her fat lip or her black eye. I cried silently the whole way home. The next day, Max was given a 1-week suspension from school. Apparently, the janitor had seen him go into the bathroom and had seen Ella run out. There are so many dates, so many times I stood by and did nothing, or worse, ran away. If I were to bring up these events with Ella today, she would just laugh it off. Susan, that was a long time ago. She remembers, of course, but Max and his bullying didn't seem as important to her anymore. She moved on. She went on to high school and college. She would get married, and she had a son. She surprises me, and I like surprises. You would too if you were me. Ella doesn't like to think about the past, and I try not to. I try. It's hard, but sometimes I can prevent myself from thinking about things from the past. My head is full of events, but my mind has organized them into nice little folders. I can pull out the 4th grade folder, or I can ignore it. These memories don't have to haunt me, but there are times when the ghosts of past follow me around. During these times, I can't focus on anything else. August 30th, this year. I was supposed to be interviewing applicants for the open accounting position in the office. A couple of the applicants were okay, but no one was outstanding. My boss said the person I would be interviewing today was the worthiest applicant. I walked out into the reception area, and the receptionist told me that my appointment was here and ready to go. I walked into the waiting room, and I saw him. Max! He's back, boys! That Maxie boy! I recognized him instantly. Suddenly, every memory I ever had of him came flooding into my head. Every vile thing that he ever said, every cruel act. September 14th, you're such a freak. Nobody likes you. September 22nd, you should transfer to the special school, loser. October 2nd, oh, you want this bag you wanted? Well, you can't have it. December 17th, Snella, Ella, why don't you go hang out somewhere else where we can't smell you? How about March? For 30 seconds, I stood there staring at him. As he stood up, smiled, and approached me. During those few seconds, I remembered every day that he tortured. He tortured my sister! I saw the date, what we had for lunch, what Ella wore, and where I tried to hide. Everything came back. And as he shook my hand and said, Max Cross, it's very nice to meet you, I realized he didn't know who I was. He had no idea. I was the only person who ever cared. I was the only one. I looked at him and said, we've met before. His face contorted into confusion. Until I told him my maiden name, his eyes flickered up and down, and his mouth dropped. Of course, yes. I wouldn't have recognized you. It's been a long time. Wow. You were about this tall when I saw you last. I could almost see the gears in his head turning, trying to tell if I remembered, hoping that by some miracle I would have forgotten who he was. I had not forgotten. Oh yeah, boys. It's absurd, really, how much hate I had for this guy. I wasn't even the one he tortured. It wasn't my name he rhymed. It wasn't my belongings he stole. But for a minute there, I couldn't separate my memories of Ella from my memories of the past. I was even having trouble separating the past from my present. All I wanted to do at that moment was to scream at the top of my lungs. You know, people say, forgive and forget. But if you can't forget, can you ever truly forgive? If I can still see his face and hear his exact words, how can I just let him go? People say all sorts of things that apply to those who don't have to remember. Time heals all wounds. Well, it doesn't for me. Time is obsolete. I can remember the day after my 10th birthday like it was yesterday, and then easily move to the last day of my sophomore year in college. And I can remember this man as clearly as I can remember the name of my father or my mother or Ella. In a strange way, Max was important to me and to my story. He's in my brain, and as hard as I try, I can't erase him. So we had the interview. I did my best not to let my disgust for him show at every joke he told or every qualification he claimed to have. He might have been the worthiest applicant we had, but my perception of him couldn't change. It was the one time I could not force my memory back into the catalogue. As soon as we finished his interview, I wanted to shred the application. I never wanted to hear his name again. But of course, I knew that would never be possible. It's my curse. Because that moment, that feeling, will always be preserved. You know, this thing, this remarkable brain function may be very useful, but it's also very maddening. It's maddening because it comes with a personal challenge to live every moment with my undisputed full intention. There is no such thing as a wasted moment for me because I know that I am going to remember it. Every time I look back on this moment, every time I look back on how I reacted, I want to be proud of how I handled it. So I took the matter to my boss. I decided to let him deal with it, and I tried to let the matter rest. Maybe I can't forget, and that sure makes it hard to forgive. I do know, however, that I have a lot of experiences stored in my memory from which to learn. Some therapists say that a healthy dose of forgetting is good for human beings. In fact, forgetting is vital for human beings. It's hard to store all this data about our lives and figure out what's important and what's not. Like a computer or something, I can't forget. I can only remember. For me, maybe remembering is more important. Maybe that's my challenge. And I intend to keep that in mind. Oh! Woo! Hey guys, thanks for staying until the end of the video. I know it was long and a little random, but I hope that you really enjoyed that. I might do something similar in the future, I don't know, depends on whether people like it or not. If you have any ideas for different kinds of stories that I could read, funny or sad, I would be happy to read them in front of a camera because I always find that to be fun. But of course, you might be wondering about my actual quote-unquote official content like IO Chat. Well, the good news is IO Chat will be continuing within the next couple days. I'm doing a video on Undertale vs. Deltarune, so expect that to be coming out soon. As far as my other series, my games so far, I need to do a little more work on my game before I show off what I have. There's a lot of stuff that I need to relearn now that my senior project portion is complete and that I look forward towards the future. With that being said, I hope to see you, and I hope that you'll see me, and stuff like that, and I'll see you, and you'll, bye!